He is professor, School of Communications at great university, Robert Morris University Boulevard in that community of Moon Township. So, Anthony, before we do anything, because you know I'm a geek about this stuff, the CBS Evening News, this isn't your Walter Cronkite edition any longer. So John Dickerson, Maurice Dubois, and Margaret Brennan, along with weather reporter Lonnie Quinn. How do you like the new look? I like it.
You know, why not? And what I mean by that, and I don't want it to sound flippant when I say why not, is, you know, let's face it, the legacy media, as we know, is under stress. We know that the viewing patterns of the audience is not the same as it once was. You know, we know of the challenges that come with, you know, the cable news networks over the last generation or so. And so, you know, one thing is to say, well, let's just keep doing what we're doing, and yeah, the audience will be there, won't they? And the other is to say, look, let's try something different. And, you know, as I was thinking about these changes to the evening news program, the one thing that came to mind was, you know, if you think about the concept of 60 Minutes as a program, you know, the thought back then was, really? People are going to watch like that on a Sunday night? And it's, you know, one of the longest running television programs in the history of the medium. You know, and then you go back to the idea to bring Katie Couric on board, maybe 10 years or so now ago, although if it was more, I wouldn't be surprised because time goes by so darn fast. And the idea of saying, look, we're going to not just have a woman as the weekend host or the fill-in host, but as the host of the news program, the evening news program. And so I think this sort of all goes together with this idea of, you know, CBS saying, look, you can stay static, but static eventually means that someone is definitely going to pass you by. And this is an opportunity to revamp what that evening news program looks like.
All right, now let's move on. Carolyn Levitt, who is the press secretary for President Trump, I believe late 20s, mid-20s. Bottom line is that is an incredible position, and to be that young and that together, it's another example of what is graduating from places like Robert Morris, and we're going to dive into that in a moment to put the connection together. But why are we seeing so many young people being put into positions of really significance in the media, whether they be a press secretary or working for one of the major networks? What is going on with this youth movement, do you think?
I think there are a couple of things. One, that generation is far savvier with technology than you and I will ever be, no matter how savvy with technology we think we are. And I'd give myself about a C grade, quite honestly, if I were going to grade myself. But I think with that advent of technology or the changes in technology, the idea of being in front of a television camera for you and I when we were in our 20s would have still been a bit of a novelty. We would not have necessarily been, making videos of ourselves or of other people as early as perhaps 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, whatever the case might be. And so I think you've got both the understanding of the technology and the media. I think you've got a confidence maybe that perhaps wasn't there in our generation. And I think along with that is there is this sense of, look, the sort of stodgy old ways where, you had to be a certain age if you were going to be considered for a position, especially something as front and center and at times as confrontational as that role can be. Maybe the idea is, look, this younger generation, maybe we should have done the same thing to the folks in their 20s and 30s when you and I were in that age bracket. Maybe it's just a reflection of, look, it's time to do something different and give a different face and a different voice and a different generation to come forward. And don't forget, too, as sort of the last thought, Trump did very well with that generation in the most recent election. And so therefore there could be a recognition that, this is what people of certainly that era or that generation and that age bracket want to see and hear.
All right, so here's the other aspect of this. Now, I was doing the timeline, and believe it or not, when I started at the world's first radio station, I was in my mid-20s, so I had some skill as well. never educated by somebody like you. So are there people, and I've heard stories about people like Peter Jennings, who basically didn't even graduate from high school and was able to do what he did. And I don't know if that's fact or fiction, but the bottom line is this. Every once in a while, does somebody just have the ability to make it work?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, sometimes there's just that natural gift. And, I think, and this may seem like a trite comparison, and I'm not trying to make it so, but, you think about that athlete who did not come from an athletic family. And you look and you go, how in the world is he or she doing that? Or you look at an artist who doesn't come from a family where seemingly art was either taught or appreciated in the home, taught regularly, neither of the person's parents or grandparents. Or there is sometimes just embedded in people that gift. And when you have it, run with it. Just absolutely run with it, especially if it's in this field that you and I both absolutely adore, because we need that passion, we need that commitment, we need that understanding. And when you can be a really savvy storyteller at the same time, that's a really great combination.
All right, Anthony Morretti, Professor, School of Communications. Do you tell the young students in your class, bring your A game and be ready, because stranger things have happened? A lot of these young people that are graduating from Robert Morris and elsewhere, I see them on the evening news here in this region. I've seen producers go from KDKA to the anchor desk at television stations in Ohio. It's fascinating to me, but I do believe what you said earlier, because of technology and being influencers with social media. If you got a skill, they're going to find you, right?
There's no doubt. And, one of the benefits that this generation has, and I'll go back to what I said at the beginning there, this generation has had the ability to both introduce themselves to the technology, but also kind of hone some skills and begin to understand something as simple as, okay, how do I look at a video camera and a camera as a whole? What does it mean to look into the lens, to not look off to the side? What does it mean to use your hands effectively? What does it mean to develop your voice? All these sorts of things that, if you and I were doing that a generation ago, we probably had the television down and, or the volume down rather on the television, and we were trying to practice doing play-by-play for a sports event or whatever the case might be. Now these people are actually doing it at a young age. They're coming with a belief in themselves and a confidence that they can do it, that our generation certainly could only have imagined being as astute in some ways at age 18 and 19 and 20.
Last thing before I let you go, here's what's very curious to me, and I'm one of them. I'm an introvert. When I'm not on camera or on the radio or doing social media, I really am kind of a loner. I'm a quiet individual. I never engage the conversation. If you were out with me at a restaurant, you'd be the one doing all the talking. Why is it that people, and I'm one of them, when the lights go on, they go, they soar. They're on the launching pad shooting for the stars. But in the real world, they're kind of really laid back. And I've heard that happen more times than not. Somebody will meet their hero in the media or an athlete, and they're like, boy, they're really quiet. Why do you think that is?
You know what? Honestly, if you and I were having dinner, I'm an equal introvert. We might not say a word to each other for the hour, so we were at dinner, and people around the restaurant would be like, are those two mad at each other? What I think it is at some point is there is, again, an innate ability, I think, to turn things on. But, without getting too deep into the psychology of which I don't know enough to really be able to give you the sort of full-throated answer, I think part of it is I can turn it on, but what it takes out of me after all of that energy and all of that preparation and all of that commitment, you sort of seem to feel spent or feel empty, where other people feel like, hey, I'm just getting started. So I understand that sense of when it's all over to just kind of go, whew, leave me alone. I want to read a book or sit in the corner or be by myself, where others seem to just keep going and going and going. I admire those who can, because I certainly understand those who say, yeah, leave me alone. I want to chill out for a while.
All right, last question. You got a minute and you're on the clock, but I have to ask it. Do you think that the president this time around, only a little over 2 weeks in office, using people like his press secretary, like J.D. Vance, to maneuver the traditional media, meaning journalism, that is being practiced around the country because he knows he needs them to be successful? We'll end on that. All yours.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think there is a fascinating a generational, not necessarily divide, but unity going on in this administration so far. And one of the questions and one of the ideas that I think we'll need to find out over time is not necessarily is the older generation or the younger generation winning, but what does each generation see as the strengths in the other? And can they merge those some way to give this presidency a chance to not face those sort of internal conflicts that we see in so many other presidencies in recent history and all of U.S. history, come to think of it.
You're incredibly talented at what you do. Keep teaching the future. I appreciate you, and have a good night.
Likewise, Rob. You be well. And when you go out to dinner, do talk to somebody.
I will. I promise. All right. I'm telling you, I'm quiet.
Take care.
All right, buddy. All right. I just find all this stuff fascinating, and it ties into what we talk about every day. And the more sources I can mention or promote, you go plug in, you have more to talk about with me. It's all about taking care of family, and I think we're all one big family here.